Okay, so I just got back from visiting my mom. She's doing well. Thanks for asking. We watched a bunch of How I Met Your Mother, and then watched a couple of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Yeah, that's a way to spend an afternoon and an evening with your mom and your sister. I've been watching How I Met Your Mother with my mother, and when my sister got home, I didn't want her to start watching that show in like the middle of the series. Well, it's more like the end of the first season, beginning of the second season, around there. But I didn't want her to start like in that spot. So we watched some movies instead. And when I was just flipping through Disney Plus, I noticed Commando was on and mentioned how much I like Commando. And they're like, "Well, do you want to watch that?" And I'm like, "I guess we could." But yeah, tried to get home because it was rainy and it stopped raining, and hoped I could get home before it started raining again. And it's Georgia, so if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. But yeah, I just got home and I've got this bad boy to open up for you. It is McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman in the purple suit from the infamous Silver Age Rainbow Batman story. Now, I know I had seen the orange suit. That's this one over here at the end. I'd seen that they'd done a figure of that, but I hadn't seen it in person. I'd only seen pictures of it online. So I'm going to have to try to hunt down the orange suit as well. And if I had known they were going to make the rest of the Rainbow Batman figures, I should have known. I would have bought Bullseye Batman when I had the chance. That's another Batman costume from that story. And it is one of the more infamous Silver Age Batman stories as far as the Silver Age goofiness. You can see here Robin beseeching Batman as Batman puts on this bright pink costume, which Robin refers to as a red costume, but I mean, you can see that that's magenta and pink. That is not a red costume. Uh, it's closer to red than it is purple on the color scale, I suppose, but it's magenta. You see the bat signal is shining on the monitor up here. And Robin says, "But Batman, last night you wore the green costume, and tonight you're wearing the red. Why?" "I must, Robin. I must wear a different colored Batman costume every night." Or each night, whatever. And you can see the purple costume is indeed in the back there, along with a standard blue Batman costume, like he wore most of the Silver Age, a yellow Batman costume, and a green Batman costume. I have to assume McFarlane's planning on making all of these, and I do believe I'd seen in a leaked list of some that there was one other color. I can't remember which one it was at the moment, and of course the full rainbow suit with the multicolored stripes. So, along with the Bullseye Batman, that means there's three of these that have been released so far, and at least two more that are on the way. Will McFarlane be able to finish up all of them before they lose the license? Only time will tell. But they've got a little bit less than a year, so they've still got some time. And they seem to be cranking out Batman characters like crazy. No surprise, because Batman sells really well. But we do have in the month of August, and they're actually coming to me a little bit early. I ordered them off of McFarlane Toy Store. Two waves of Batman characters. Technically, one of the characters is Monarch, but we'll talk more about that when that comes up. But that wave, that's the McFarlane Toys digital wave, and that's going to have No Man's Land Batman, first appearance Dick Grayson in the original costume, the George Perez costume, and Stephanie Brown as Batgirl along with Monarch. And then the other wave, which is the standard DC Multiverse figures, that's going to have As Bats in the red and black and gold costume, Troika Batman, which is the Kelly Jones Batman. I'm looking forward to that one a lot, and Batwing. So we're going to have a lot of Batman to talk about in the upcoming weeks. And I've got a ton of Batman stuff to open up. Lots of figures of Batman himself, lots of different villains. I probably should have skipped this one and went straight to, I think it's around here somewhere. That's Orion. That's one I got to open up soon also. But I had the blue and gray Batman, the blue and gray rebirth Batman. He's around here somewhere, but I don't know. Hopefully I didn't misplace him again. because I misplaced them for a while, and that's why I hadn't opened them up yet. But I finally found them the other day, so we're going to be opening that one up soon. I probably should have opened him up today instead of Purple Batman, but I've already made the decision, and this decision is final. This is happening. We're opening Purple Batman. It's nothing could stop me now unless like God struck me down with lightning, and I don't think he will because God's a pretty chill dude. He's gonna let me open up this action figure, I'm sure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open up the Purple Batman. Now, I would go into some details of this story, but what happens a lot of the times is I start talking about stuff, and then it turns out they just talk about it on the trading card. So first, we're going to read the trading card, and I will weigh in with anything that I feel like they omitted in their summary of the story, because I'm pretty sure they'll summarize the story of the Rainbow Batman for us, since it is an unusual concept. So, there's our Batman figure out of the package. It's a nice dark purple with some light lavender for the bodysuit. Lots of extra hands, all the same hands I believe that came with the previous version of this mold, the Silver Age, early Silver Age Batman. Also works as a late Golden Age Batman, but you know he's pretty much drawn the same way. And it looks like the trading card and the stand are on two different blisters. So let's see if I can get this open without messing up the trading card too much, if I can get it to actually peel off of the cardboard backing, and huzzah, it does seem to be a little more loosely glued on this side. I started with the other side, but it was peeling up the paper too much, so I decided to try the other side. Good thing I did. All right, so there's the artwork on the trading card. It's the same as what we saw before from the cover of the comic book, just a little more closely cropped. Doesn't have Robin on there, but it still has the dialogue, I must, Robin. I must wear a different Batman costume each night. And there's the back of the trading card, and it's got a picture of just rainbow suits on there. And it does say Batman purple suit, so I'm assuming that this is going to be a unique back for this card, and they'll all have their unique backs. And it doesn't seem to tell us anything about the story on here, but I'll go ahead and read it to you. Batman Purple Suit, Detective Comics 241, data file. Debut, Detective Comics, Volume 1, number 27, May 1939. Real name Bruce Wayne, base Gotham City, height 6'2", weight 210 pounds, eyes blue, hair black. Powers and abilities: martial arts expert, skilled acrobat, gymnast, and athlete. Escape artist, highly intelligent with advanced knowledge of technology, natural leader, master strategist. Weapons include utility belt, armored suit, owns customized land, air, and water vehicles. If you weren't paying too much attention, you might just read that. Oh, he owns some customized land. That's nice, and water vehicle. Oh, he owns air and he owns water vehicles. That's all very nice. Allies: Batman family, James Gordon, Lucius Fox, and Superman. Something else that's funny about this, since this is an early Silver Age Batman, and Lucius Fox didn't actually appear till the early Bronze Age. I have his first appearance in the comics. That means he was not an ally of Lucius Fox yet. I don't even know if Lucius Fox would have worked for Wayne Enterprises or if he was a later hire. So we got the typical matte black figure stand with a glossy DC logo embossed onto it. Not quite as glossy as usual, but the stand itself is kind of a little more on the lighter side of black, almost charcoal, and the DC is more of a true black. You know, you get variations on the colors on these things from time to time. It just happens. So let's go ahead and get this put back together so I can get ready to toss this in the recycling once, probably once I get enough stuff piled up here that it gets annoying to me. Honestly, that's how it happens sometimes. That's how it be sometimes. So let's go ahead and get out his accessories. And first of all is the infamous Batarang, Batman's most used weapon in his arsenal of crime fighting. First appeared in 1939, along with not too long after Batman himself. I believe it was Detective 31 that we first saw the Batarang in. It was the issue with the Mad Monk, the first of the two-parter with the Monk. And then we've got two of these kind of, not quite gripping hands, but more sort of, I guess, gesturing hands. And it does have two gripping hands. And you can see that these are painted in a very dark purple. This is, I think, if you're going to put Batman in a purple suit, this is a good shade of purple to use. It's a very dark purple. It almost works just kind of like a darker version in general of the Silver Age Batman suit. But we got those gesturing hands and the two gripping hands. They're identical. And he's got solid fists on him straight out of the package. So let's go ahead and get him out of the package. So he's got rubber tabs around each of his ankles. And are those double rubber tabs around his ankles? Holy overkill, Batman. All right, so we got those cut. And then there's double rubber tabs around each of the wrists. Well, the wrist and the elbow on the other side. Maybe they were taking that escape artist thing a little too seriously, considering how he's just an action figure, folks. He's not going to get out of here that easily. He doesn't have sentience. This isn't Toy Story. He's just a piece of plastic. So even if he's a piece of plastic shaped like Batman, I don't think he's going to be able to get himself out of the package on his own power, but they seem to think he will. All right, and then we can see how shiny that cape is. And it's that kind of satiny material that Batman capes are usually made out of, and it looks like it flares out about as far as the Silver Age cape goes. But I think it might be a little bit shorter than the Silver Age cape. I think the Silver Age cape was just slightly longer, but I could be mistaken about that. Now I'm wishing I'd have brought the Silver Age figure over here. It's on the other side of the room, so that I could compare the two. But he's got the same head sculpt and the same belt that figure had, and the rest of the figure is just kind of standard Batman figure parts that we see on a lot of Batman figures. Most of it would have been first used on the Nightfall Batman figure, but the torso was created later on so they could attach a fabric cape to it. But it's the same arms and legs and abs as hands and feet and all that kind of stuff as that Nightfall Batman. But they give him a new head and a new belt, which are a little more in line with that early Silver Age appearance. You can see that it's got those kind of like little capsules on there, almost like a little Tylenol. And the head is very much sculpted in the style of, that sort of Dick Sprang, Sheldon Moldoff, Jerry Robinson, Win Mortimer, and a lot of other great Golden and Silver Age DC artists or Batman artists. By the way, since I didn't mention it before, the artwork on the back is by Shelley Moldoff. He was Bob Kane's ghost at the time. So basically, part of Bob Kane's contract was that he was to provide half of the pages for Batman, and the other half DC themselves would provide. And they hired people like Dick Sprang to draw theirs. And Bob Kane, who didn't want to do anything more than he absolutely had to, a guy who basically wanted to get paid for doing nothing. He'd pay half of the money that he was paid to draw Batman to Sheldon Moldoff so that he would draw Batman, and Bob Kane could sign his name to it. So yeah. There's a story about after Julie Schwartz took over as the editor of Batman that Bob Kane brought in some pages, and Schwartz looked at one of the panels of Batman punching out a bad guy, and I guess he was just trying to show Bob Kane who was boss, and he's like he wanted that panel redrawn as like it had more perspective to it, as if he was actually punching off of the page like a 3D effect. And Bob was like, okay, I'll bring it home and take it home with me and bring it back, and it'll be fixed. And Schwartz was like, oh no, we ain't got time for that, you got to do it here. And Bob Kane just took it into the other room and kind of struggled with it, and from what I understand made it actually look worse than what it looked like before. But when asked why he couldn't do it, Bob Kane had to swallow his pride and admit lack of talent. So, yeah, it's a sad story, but, considering a lot of the things that Bob Kane did, I don't feel too bad for him, if I'm being honest. But Shelley Maldoff was a great artist, and I think he did a really good job of aping the style that Bob Kane actually did set up when he actually was drawing Batman in the first couple of stories. Maldoff came on like really quickly afterwards, though. He like started drawing Batman like well with the first Mad Monk story, I believe, was Maldoff's first story, and he left for a while, but then he came back, and he's definitely one of the unsung heroes of Batman comics because Bob Kane was the guy who insisted that only his name be on the book, not Bill Finger, who actually came up with a lot of the aspects of Batman that we know and love, not artists like Jerry Robinson, who came up with the Joker, by the way, Dick Sprang, my personal favorite Golden Age Batman artist, and one of the contenders for like I think the greatest Batman artist of all. Like if you're talking greatest Batman artist of all, for me, like it's Dick Sprang, it's Neil Adams, like it's like there I don't think there's anybody who can equal either one of those. I think that those two they're kind of on a par with each other. And in terms of like my personal favorite, I lean towards Neil Adams because that's what I grew up with. That's the Batman of my youth. I know a lot of people might talk about like let's say Jim Aparo, who's fantastic, Greg Capullo, who is fantastic. I think currently drawing Batman comics still. If he's not drawing them like right now at this exact minute, he's drawn them recently, and we'll probably draw them again in the near future. Personally, my favorite modern Batman artist, my favorite, I guess you'd even say go so far as I don't know, I'd say living, because then you got guys like Graham Nolan and Kelly Jones that they're still kicking around, and they're both awesome. But my favorite one, who's kind of currently working on Batman stories, and you see from time to time, is Jason Fabok. I think he's just phenomenal. Jim Lee is a guy who gets a lot of credit as far as being a great Batman artist, and I kind of feel like to me, Jason Fabok's artwork, to my eyes, I think is what Jim Lee's artwork looks like to most other people's eyes. I think he's that good. I think he's better than Jim Lee. I'll be the guy that says it, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, and I'm not trying to talk smack about Jim Lee when I say that. I think Jim Lee is a very good comic book artist, but to me, Fabok is just better, if I'm being real about it. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation on this guy. Oh, I should talk about the story too. Let's talk about the articulation first, so we can actually talk about the figure for a little bit. So Batman can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and they've got that cool Mcfarlane butterfly joint, so you got some wiggle room there. Batman has a wired cape, so you can tilt his cape upwards, and he's got that cool Mcfarlane torso articulation. So the torso rotates all the way around, where the abdomen meets the rib cage, and where the abdomen meets the belt, the utility belt, and of course it's ball jointed, so you can move that around any which way you want to, and get some cool dramatic poses out of that. You can bend forward about that far, bend back about that far, bend to the sides about that far. So pretty cool. Batman can kick up about that far. So pretty decent range of motion with the kicking. It does have a little bit of wobble there. It's not a full rotation. It doesn't go all the way around, but it still can get you some good poses if you need it. You got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. Oh, I neglected to mention, he does have bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all around. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbows. And he's got the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation that rotates all the way around. And it's on that cool sort of ball joint, so you can get a vertical hinge out of it, a horizontal hinge, a kind of diagonal hinge. Basically move it around any which way you want. But you can see what I'm talking about with the color scheme of this guy. Like, purple isn't the usual color of Batman. It's usually the color of the Joker, right? But Batman wears purple well. There's no lie about that. Lone Dragon says, this has been a very strange day. I had always thought it would all end with Ozzy and in a sword fight with Keith Richards, and in the end, there can be only one. Yes, and I'm sure Keith Richards did experience the quickening when Ozzy passed, sadly. And in fact, since I'm opening up a Batman action figure, and since Lone Dragon was nice enough to bring up Ozzy Osbourne, let's go ahead and do a little tribute to Ozzy right now and pull Batman's head off. Maybe I should actually bite it off. No, I don't think I will. It's not very sanitary. But man, it's on there solid. This head ain't wanting to come off. Batman is just too tough for me to decapitate. Sorry, Ozzy, I wasn't able to do it. I might have another Batman action figure around here. It might be a little easier to do it with. Let's see. Don't I have a? Well, this one it articulates at the neck. Yeah, it's on there nice and tight. I'm not going to be able to decapitate a Batman figure for you, Ozzy. Sorry. Very disappointed. I'm not going to bite it. No, that's not sanitary. And besides, like I might put some bite marks into his head. I don't want to permanently damage my Batman action figure. I don't think Ozzy would approve of that. Ozzy would go, oh, you wasted your money tearing up that Batman action figure because I'm dead. I'm still dead. It didn't make me any more alive, did it now? Yeah, you're right, Ozzy. I'm sorry. He'd probably drop a few more F bombs in there too. But anyway, where was I as far as talking about the articulation? Did I talk about the double jointed knees? Yeah, he's got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion we get at the knees. Sharon! And of course, he's got the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation where it rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the foot. So we got a good amount of ankle articulation there. Foot points down about that far, foot points up about that far. And then you have joints at the toes, just show off. So, why was Batman wearing all these crazy colors in this comic? Well, I'm going to tell you, since the trading card didn't. I'm not going to feel like I'm repeating myself. So, I can go ahead and tell you that story now. So, in the comic book story, and spoiler warning for a comic book story from like the 1950s, a comic book story that like I think might be older than my mother at this point. Let me look it up. Let me check real quick, work the Google on the internet machine, and I will look up Rainbow Batman, and we'll see exactly when this story was published because I don't remember offhand. And anybody who's interested in more details about the Rainbow Batman story, I'm going to suggest you look at Casually Comics, her video on the Rainbow Batman, because I believe she discusses that rather thoroughly when she did her video. And I always enjoy her videos, especially when she talks about, stories that I love anyway. Rainbow Batman. Okay. And you can bet if I find the actual Rainbow Batman with the colored stripes, I will be picking up that story. 1957. So yeah, my mother was 3 years old when that comic book came out. That's how old that comic book is. So yeah. But yeah, so basically what happened was that Robin, in his identity as Dick Grayson, had saved a person's life and had injured his arm in the process. And Batman, wanting to distract from Robin having an injured arm so that people wouldn't connect it with Dick Grayson, who, like I said, had heroically saved somebody's life. So it was very common knowledge that Dick Grayson had injured his arm. Batman was wearing all these crazy colored costumes to distract people from Robin's injured arm. That was the whole point of that. That was that story. And it's the kind of thing you could only really do in a Silver Age story like that, where Batman says, Robin's injured his arm. The only logical thing for me to do in this situation is to wear like a bright pink Batman costume, and people will wonder why I'm doing that instead of wondering why Robin is favoring his left arm. Yeah, comics. I'm sure what really happened, what happens a lot of the times with these types of stories, is they probably came up with the idea of the cover first and had this idea of Batman just trying on all these multiple colored Batman outfits, and then had to come up with a story reason as to why they did it. Now, if you're a fan of the Brave and the Bold animated series, they also did their version of the Rainbow Batman as one of the cold opens at the beginning of the show that they often had. Yeah, Lone Dragon says not like he could leave Robin at home for a few weeks, right? I mean, like there's all kinds of things he could have done differently, but no. Honestly, I think the truth is Batman is just a clothes horse and wanted to show off some of these more unique Batman outfits that he already had in his Bat wardrobe. Like anybody who's been a fan of Batman action figures knows that we've got a ton of Batman colored in wacky colors over the years. So starting in the year 1990, when Kenner took over the Batman license and did their Dark Knight collection, one of the first figures they introduced was Tech Shield Batman, who had a golden costume, and that was a very unusual color scheme for Batman. The other two costumes were Crime Attack Batman had a black costume, which is what he had in the movie, so not too weird. And I believe it was Wall Scaler Batman was the name of him, and he had a two-toned blue costume with like a dark blue cape, cowl, boots. Basically, all the stuff that's dark purple on this was dark blue, and all the stuff that's kind of lavender on this was like a kind of a bluish gray color. And then but the Tech Shield Batman was a huge seller, did really well for Kenner. So they wanted to do as many crazy colors of Batman as they could get. So when they got to Batman Returns, then you had Arctic Batman who had a white suit. You had Deep Dive Batman who had a neon yellow suit. You had Power Wing Batman had a copper suit. You had Laser Batman had a laser Batman had a silver suit, etc., etc. And by the time they get to Batman Forever, it was easier to find Batman in any of these crazy colors than just a plain old black Batman costume. Like, I think the closest they had to the Panther suit, it would have been the. Do I still have that over here? I might still have that over here. Is that? I had him a little baggy, but what did I do with him? So they had the blast cape Batman. I know I've talked about that on this channel before, and even that one had like red markings on the outfit, which aren't quite canon. Batman doesn't usually have red markings on his outfit like that. I painted over it with some model paint, but whatever. Uh, yeah. So Rainbow Batman actually predicted by a little over 30 years what would become tradition with the character by having Batman in just like an entire wardrobe of crazy Batman suits in bizarre colors. And, we just had Batman in basically every color of the rainbow. You could probably put together a recreation of the Rainbow Batman cover with with various Kenner Batman action figures. Like they did a blue Batman, a purple Batman, an orange Batman, a red Batman, a green Batman, a yellow Batman. It would not be too difficult. And in fact, I might actually do that just for fun because I think I have most of those colors. I need to get a few more though. So maybe that'll be something. I'm trying to recollect a lot of those vintage Kenner Batman action figures. So that's pretty much it for Purple Batman. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe, and I like it when you leave comments. And any kind of engagement is good for the algorithm. So when I say like and subscribe, YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe, and they suggest it to more people to watch it. And then those people, they're more likely to like and subscribe when they hear me say it. So it becomes a vicious cycle, and then it grows and builds, and we then got like tons of people watching this channel. Not just cool people like Lone Dragon. We got lots of other cool people that watch this channel too. And shout out to all my regulars. You know who you are. And if my Aunt June watches this, especially, because I love my Aunt June. So and she's been popping up on the videos a lot lately. I see her pop up in the comments section, and Jose Membrane. That's another one of my regulars, and it's always good to see him as well. So and he usually has some interesting things to say in the comments, like not just the chat. It's always cool to see people in the chat, but people that leave comments afterwards. That's always good to see too. And I'm not trying to put pressure on you because I know sometimes it's hard to come up with a how do I subscribe? Must be Lone Dragon says must be this button labeled report. No. If you press the report button, what that does is that makes it so you have to write a report on the video, and you don't want to do that because that's extra paperwork. you gotta write a full report and give a detailed synopsis of everything I said and what kind of T-shirt I'm wearing. Which, by the way, today it's an Adam West Batman, which could not be more appropriate considering the era of comics this guy came from. A lot of people say that the Adam West TV show made Batman into a silly character, and I'm here to tell you nothing is further from the truth. As my description of the story might tip you off, if anything, Adam West made Batman darker and more serious than things like the Rainbow Batman. Jose Membrane says, "Love you guys." Aw, that's sweet. We love you too, Jose. So we're all one big happy family that sits on the couch and talks about action figures together. So goofy as heck. Yes, indeed. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trashing it. I love the old goofy Silver Age comics. I think they're great. I enjoy reading them. But, to say that, to try to say that, oh, Batman was all dark and serious until Adam West came along and ruined him. I'm like, yeah, go read the Rainbow Batman and tell me how dark and serious that was. Go read any detective, like the Mermaid Batman or the Batman Genie, or Batman gets turned into a giant or gets shrunken, or gets turned into a two-dimensional figure, or anything with Batmite. Hell, like and again, don't get me wrong, I love those kind of stories. I think they're a lot of fun, and I'll read them from time to time, and I think they're just as valid as any other Batman comics. And I'm sure kids of the time loved those Batman comics, but to try to pretend like Batman was like always what Frank Miller was doing before Adam West came along, and that was just some kind of aberration. I'm sorry to tell you that was not the case. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Next episode, I'm going to be back with more Batman action figures to open, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick because I got the Scarecrow over here. I've got Batman Year 2, and I really do want to open up that Rebirth Batman. So I'm going to see if I can find what I did with that again real quick as soon as I take the thumbnail for this video. And if I can, that's going to be the one I'm going to open tomorrow. But we got a lot more Batman characters to come. Several figures of Batman himself. We're going to have Nightwing. We're going to have, spoiler, we're going to have Timothy's Toy Therapy says, "Oh, damn, I came at the end." Yeah, I'm afraid you did. Sorry. But you can always go back and watch the replay, and that'll be nice. At least that'll scratch that itch if you wanted to hear me talk about this guy. But yeah, I've still got like a couple of Joker figures to open up. Oh, and you've subscribed. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, but anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.